fun begins.
How's it going?
Hello.
Well,
Greetings, young Jedi.
hello there.
In a toy line as old as the Black Series, there are bound to be some very rare pieces. I mean, the line is over 10 years old, and in that decade, there have definitely been some contenders for the rarest item. You might be thinking of the SDCC 2013 Boba Fett and Han and Carbonite, or maybe the SDCC 2017 Thrawn Office Dio. Even the Walmart Mexico exclusive Wave 2 4-pack doesn't have the title of rarest, even though it is pretty up there. What you're looking at right now is the cream of the crop when it comes to rare Star Wars The Black Series. This is the Hasbro Employee Gift Prototype Chewbacca figure set from an extremely limited run of 400 pieces, this one being 264. Don't be mistaken though, as there are less than 400 out there. I recently spoke to Mr. Stevie of the Hasbro team, and he verified about 25 never ended up being distributed, and to keep them special, he had the leftovers destroyed. So there are truly, at most, about 375 in the world. Let's get into this set. If I were to describe this package in one word, it would be premium. As far as Black Series exclusives go, this is the nicest presentation anything in the line has had, way above any of the convention exclusives by a mile, and some of those have been presented beautifully. This box is wrapped in a very, very fine craft paper that has the implications of looking leather. It has little wrinkles all over it. It's otherwise a matte black. The Force Awakens embossed in silver over the top, catching the light and just bouncing it back with that foily beauty is just superb, with the Hasbro logo in that perfect blue down below. I cannot emphasize just how beautiful this is, even as a closed item. It's something where you look at the box and you're like, what's inside? It's got to be something nice. Now, talking about what's inside, well, the presentation doesn't stop here. There's no slouching through and through. So for starters, the lid does lift off, and there is an art card inside. This art features some concept art of Chewbacca from The Force Awakens, although he did look very similar in that movie to movies before. There's also some finished art on the side. You have your Hasbro Star Wars logo over an implied graph paper background. There's a bio here, not about the figure. On behalf of Hasbro and the entire Star Wars galaxy, please accept this gift as a small token of thanks for your extraordinary efforts in delivering Hasbro's 2015 Star Wars toy and game product line. You have truly proven yourself as a valued member of a special alliance, a team of adventurous and courageous rebels who seize the opportunity to bring the Force to millions of Star Wars fans across the galaxy. Your talent and perseverance has made the difference throughout this challenging mission and will create lasting memories for many people for years to come. Chewbacca is the quintessential partner. He's always there for his friends and will join any battle with courage and confidence. You have all brought Chewie's spirit to your roles. For that, your teammates will be forever grateful. This limited edition Chewbacca set celebrates his team spirit and is symbolic of the journey that we have taken in delivering the special line. May the Force be with you. Very, very kind words for many who worked very hard on this line. And I will say, for as critical as I am about certain things in the line, it is worth noting that a lot of people put a lot of hard work into everything that has been in this line. And that is why myself and many others have been long-term collectors of it. Setting the lid off to the side, you see the figures in their foam tray, presented beautifully. So this is a very deep, very soft, spongy foam with a felted top, meaning it catches every little piece of lint ever. So while it is a matte black, you might see little specks here and there, and there's really no saving that. But it presents beautifully. On the left, you have your prototype casting Chewbacca. This is a Chewbacca that was ran in a light gray, almost white colored plastic. And it is the same mold that the final product over here would be. However, they run the mold many times with white plastic just to make sure the mold can handle the pressures of injection molding and Is it going to crack 5 or 6 in? They want to make sure if it can run 1,000, it can run 1,000 more. And that's the idea behind it. So usually these things would be recycled, scrapped. They elected to keep a couple as employee gifts. So you have the prototype Chewbacca and the 2 components of the bowcaster off to the side, packed very nicely in. You have a finished, painted, and I don't believe hand-painted, I believe this is the same thing that went in the red and black box. Chewbacca over here with his finished bowcasters off in there as well. And then you have this Hasbro Star Wars team embossed. It's not embossed, but it's like a rubber insert that's glued down to the foam. And in silver under there is number 264-400. As I mentioned, these are numbered releases. You have in that foily silver again a border, the Star Wars logo, the iconic silhouette of Luke and Leia from the 77 poster, Luke's saber held high, and just screams Star Wars. One thing worth noting before we open it up, the cutouts for the bowcaster portion, like not the bow, but like the blaster portion of the bowcaster, are a little shorter than what they should be. So I'll show you on the finished one right here. But it is pretty warped from its time in this tray. I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm not going to run them underwater or anything and warm water to try and soften and straighten them. This is how they're packed. This is how they'll stay. Everyone is like this. It's just what it is. It's something where I'm going to keep them in the tray no matter what, so it would be pointless to me to try and straighten them now. Let's get the figures out of the tray and just take a look at what you get with this iconic set. Here are the Chewbaccas out of the packaging, and as always, I like to start with the accessories. So to show you the finished bowcaster, here is the black plastic one. It is all black plastic, no paint, which I don't believe the original release had either. I never actually picked up the Force Awakens Chewbacca. I just had so many other Chewbaccas that I was kind of like, hey, it's a pass. So filling in a hole in the collection here, right? But this one is black plastic, features the separate piece that is the bow across the front, pegs in like so. Everything is a little warped here because, as I mentioned, it came out of that foam tray that's cut just a little too small, but such is life. Now, this could be straightened out if you were to dunk it into warm water, bow it straight, and then run it under cool water while holding it straight. It would retain its shape, but that is not something I personally care to do because it is going back into the tray. Setting that back down, let's take a look at the prototype one. Something interesting going on here, and I will elaborate on it with the prototype figure. It's supposed to be a light gray plastic. I think there's something in the foam of the insert that's reacting with it or staining it, because this is the color it should be, and this is the color that's like been facing down on the foam the entire time. It's taken on a little bit of a tan, actually, kind of almost like heading in the painted Chewbacca direction. But it is really cool seeing these sculpts in a white plastic, basically. It does let you see some of the details that hide a little more in the black versions, like the sculpted, like tubing there of all the ridges on it. Just certain things stand out more in white, and I think that's why the test shots really matter in this kind of thing. Much like the final product, the bow does just peg onto it like so, and much like the other one, it is meant for shooting around corners. This one is just a little bit warped. That's okay, though. We're going to set the accessories off to the sides and take a look at the figures. Now, the figures are exactly the same because it was the same mold ran between the two. But the fun thing with the test shot is that it is in that all white, well, almost white, light gray plastic. And it's honestly really neat bringing in the painted one, just comparing between the two, because while you acknowledge that the painted one is absolutely sculpted fur, you lose some of the sculpt where you would see it best with shadows and light hitting it, but then you have the dark brown, chestnut colored paint for his darker hair patches, whereas here it's all white. So in certain areas it's kind of highlighted by this a little bit better. It really kind of helps you appreciate the sculpt more. It's kind of like if any of you are into 3D printing, where you see your renders like on your slicing software and it's all white, but like you just see every line of it. And then when you get it out and it's, your tie-dye colored plastics and you kind of lose some of the detail. Like, this is a really, really cool way to see a sculpt. It's interesting looking into those empty eye sockets. And,
there's not really anything going on in there, but it almost feels like maybe there's little lines around where the pupils are supposed to hit, but then like you actually see the life in the actual final painted version. He comes with everything on both of them, the satchel over his shoulders, and it's exactly the same from one to the other. It's just lacking the paint. However, with this being cast in gray and this being painted, I don't imagine that this is actually all paint. I think they probably cast it in that kind of like orangey brown color, and then they paint it over top of that, just to accent everything. And I feel that's probably how they do it. So it's just really neat seeing it like this. Now, as I mentioned with the bowcaster, however, not as extremely as the bowcaster. You do see your nice color looking at it on the front. You start going to the side, there is a little bit of dinginess that's starting to affect it. It's definitely being stained by time spent in there in the foam. However, that is the best way to present it. Something else that's really, really cool about this is, other than lacking any color, it is a fully functional action figure. So the head is on a ball joint. You can turn it somewhat. That's not a fault of the prototype. That's just the Chewbacca mold, being that he has hair coming down front and back. It's basically a choker. You just can't do anything with it. But I mean, every point of articulation the figure is supposed to have is there. It functions as it should. Chewbacca was always a little bit limited, and I'm not trying to romp on anything too hard here, just out of fear, because that would be one hell of an email to Hasbro Pulse, right? Hey, my Chewbacca arm broke. Oh, what Chewbacca do you have? Oh, the rare one. But it's just neat, like, just seeing this. This is a part of the design process that doesn't really make it out that often, and so it's just absolutely fascinating being able to see such a thing in person. Just superb. Wow. I understand I am absolutely glazing this thing, but I cannot emphasize just how cool it is to have it in my possession. This is one of those things where it was never announced. Hasbro never came out and said, look what we made, but it's only for our employees. Like, photos of this got taken after it was handed out and just posted on social media. And then people had to figure out, like, are these fake? Are these real? And then just as more got posted over the years, it became more of a real item. Seeing this at that booth at ICCC this year was absolutely mind-blowing. Just the rarity of it. And it's so uncommon for any of this factory stuff to leak out into the public's hands. It's not uncommon for people to see, pieces leak here and there on Instagram these days of upcoming figures. But to actually get a full-blown, assembled, test shot figure out of the factory, that never happens, or very rarely happens. And the fact that Hasbro actually elected to keep some of these for employee gifts, just an absolutely insane move. So, one final look at the figures out of the tray. I just got to say, these are absolutely superb. Just cannot emphasize enough how cool these are. Just what a piece. Now, isn't that a presentation? It just looks so cool all on its own. So, to wrap this up with a bow, what are my thoughts on the prototype Chewbacca pack, personally? Personally, I think that this is one of the coolest things that a Star Wars collector could ever try to get their hands on. I know that there's a lot of cool things out there, and in a world that has all sorts of props and replicas and figures and collectibles, I know that that's a very, very bold statement. But for me personally, this is one of those things that has been on that list of things where you're like, wow, that's cool. I'm never going to be able to own it, though, just due to the extreme limited nature of this release. It's not even a release. It was a gift to Hasbro team members in 2015. You had to be there at the right place and right time. If you join the Hasbro Black Series team right now, you're not getting one of these. These are absolutely a closed off, never going to be more kind of thing. And I would assume, generally speaking, that those that work at Hasbro usually do it because they kind of like toys. And so, me personally, were I able to be working on the Hasbro team, were I given one of these limited number things, eBay would be the last place it would ever end up. Maybe my kids, when I'm dead and gone, might do it. But while I'm intaking oxygen and standing vertically, as of someone who is just obsessed with this franchise and obsessed with collecting, this is staying, in my personal collection forever. Just as being such a cool, unusual, hard to find piece. This is where it belongs. So, what do I think of this set? I mean, it is cooler than cool. Do I recommend it? If you can get your hands on one, I would say yeah. But the type of person this is for someone that is absolutely, truly obsessed, not just with Hasbro products, but the Black Series in particular. I have talked before about what the Black Series means to me, how many opportunities it's given to make real life friends, and just how many hours I've killed that could have been spent doing other things, but I'm happy to have spent them doing something that I'm really passionate about, and the new passions that it's given me, and all the hobbies and conventions and opportunities that have come to me because of this line. So as someone who has such immense love and appreciation for this line, this is something that had to happen. Now, I think that the common guy that just has a couple of figures on display, this might not speak to them too much. And that's totally fine. Again, this is just that one insane piece that no one is ever going to manage to get 99 times out of 100. And again, it was just right place, right time. And as I spoke to my friends at ICCC about, it was cool just being able to see it at a vendor table. Just seeing it as a collector is cool. And again, just the high of owning it still hasn't worn off all these months later. So that's it for now, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for letting me share my grail with you. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, may the Force be with each and every one of you, and goodbye.